This is Shy,
And this is Megan,
and this is the Magical Happy Hour.
a podcast where we share our love for Disney and theme parks, travel tips, food.
And anything else we feel like talking about.
It's episode 19. And this week we're going to be talking about the secrets and history of the Haunted Mansion.
Ooh.
I think we were both so excited to do this, like something we've been itching to do from the very beginning and have been
Yes.
like, oh, we must push it back. It's too good to spoil ourselves with so early on.
We are in October, so it is the perfect time.
Oh, yeah. Kind of following along a trending thread of episodes of spooky or mysterious things.
Yeah.
But first, some news to cover.
Yes. So they have announced that the new turnstiles are going to begin installation on October 7th. So by the time you hear this, some of them or most of them should have already be installed. I will report back to what it's like because I'm going to Disneyland this week. Yay!
Yay!
So I'm looking forward to see what they actually end up looking like.
Yeah, the little bit that I saw, it does look like it's like a self-scan system now
Okay.
instead of a cast member using their device that they have to check you in. But beyond that, no idea. We mentioned the discounted children's tickets last episode, but we gained a little bit more information about that. So, beginning October 22nd, guests can purchase kids' tickets for as low as $50 per child per day. And it's going to be valid for visits from January 7th through March 20th. So, this is more of a future deal that they're just starting on the 22nd of October. And then the deal is for children ages
3 to 9. And just as a friendly reminder, theme park reservations will still be required.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
And this last bit isn't really news, but if you like what you're hearing from us, if you like what we're doing here, please make sure you're subscribed. And if you can, please leave us a rating, preferably 5 stars. But, you're allowed to be honest, but it really does help us out so much. And if you have Disney lovers in your life, maybe send them a little recommendation and send us their way.
Yes, when you guys like us and leave us a review, it helps other people that are also interested or looking for a Disney podcast be able to find us. So we really appreciate it when you do it.
Yes. Thank you for those of you that have already and have been supporting us for some time. We really do appreciate it. We really enjoy doing this together, and knowing that people are listening can't say it hurts. And if you use Instagram, we do post pretty frequently. I'd like to think we're posting some fun stuff. And of course, we look for feedback, and we'd like to hear what you want to hear from us, what
Yeah.
you would like to hear us cover on the podcast, what kind of topics or history or story. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, Megan's doing a really awesome job running our Instagram, and it's at Magical Happy Hour Podcast. There's tons of really cute reels, and we also post news on there as well.
Lots of interaction from like other Disney accounts too, so constantly sharing what other people are making.
Which is really fun.
Little community. Oh, is it time
I'm
to
so
enter the
excited.
mansion?
I'm so excited to talk about this. This is my favorite ride. So,
I love it as well. It was a ride it took me a long time to go on as a kid, but it's one that I feel like it's like the first thing on my list every time, pretty much.
yes, it's a great way to start your day. It's a great way to end your day. And Walt really loved it too. He started thinking about the Haunted Mansion right when he started thinking about Disneyland. It's something that he wanted to have incorporated in the parks. And it took a long time for it to actually arrive and be a thing. It went through a couple different ideas and such, but we are going to go into some pretty big detail on how the Haunted Mansion came to be.
Yes. Yeah. It's actually really amazing that a project that took so long to be fully completed was a project that got completed at all.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to start us off with the beginning of it all?
Yeah. So the idea for the Haunted Mansion precedes even the creation of Disneyland Park and originated when plans for a park were going to be located next to Disney Studios in Burbank. Walt Disney and Imagineer Harper Goff had envisioned and sketched like a dilapidated house on like a crooked path up a hill looming over the bright, peaceful main streets. But this is not what Walt wanted. He wanted to have a nice, clean, haunted mansion on the outside and is has a famous quote that is stating, "We will take care of the outside. Let the ghosts care take care of the inside." And so I thought that was really cool. And I think it would be interesting to have had like a dilapidated house. However, I think it totally fits in with the scene of it, like supposing to be in Louisiana and the beautiful building that it is. It's perfect.
Yes. So Paris's Haunted Mansion, their version of it, Phantom Manor, is the dilapidated house. And it is very interesting to think about the differences between the two. There, it looks like hello, tonally correct for that area.
Okay,
Yeah, it fits in very well. Thinking of that in Disneyland, that sounds like it would not look nice.
right.
Whereas the haunted mansion that we have today in Disneyland looks so inviting.
Yes.
Yeah, like you definitely want to approach that house even knowing that it's filled with 999 haunts. Ken Anderson then took the idea created by Goff and developed a story that would be an early conception of what the attraction would come to be later on and what we know it as today. While studying New Orleans architecture and old plantations, Anderson would actually find inspiration for the mansion's facade in the images of the Shipley Lydecker House, which is in Baltimore, Maryland.
Do you know anything about this house?
I don't. I actually didn't do any research into the house itself. I did look up pictures of the house,
Yeah,
and
I've
it
seen
is
pictures of it, but
beautiful. Yeah, like it's definitely the inspiration for the Haunted Mansion.
yeah, for sure. But I wonder
It's
how it came to be like something famous that anyone would know about.
yeah, I'm not sure. That's an interesting question. I guess my thought was that it was just already a famous home, like maybe known for the architecture, known for the homeowners. I'm not sure. I didn't look into it. I skipped that part, I guess.
Maybe if we end up doing a part two, we can come back with some information on the Shipley Lydecker house
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that while studying New Orleans, this was a house that they came across, considering
in
it's
Baltimore. Yeah.
yeah, like not even the South, but they chose well.
So the Haunted Mansion at one point was going to be like a walkthrough museum experience, and then it was going to be like a wax museum, and then it ended up being what it is today. But you can really see the inspiration in the Walt Disney World mansion, because that one was a bit more inspired by the Winchester Mystery House. And you can see like it has the footsteps and the staircase that leads to nowhere.
Hmm. because I think that was a big inspiration for Walt wanting the like outside to look nice, but with
Hmm.
like that invited feeling, is because of the Winchester Mystery House. Have you ever been there?
No, I haven't.
Okay, me either. I've driven by several times, but I've never gone in. But my sister is obsessed with it.
It's in California, right?
It's in San Jose.
It's in San Jose. Okay. We'll have to go one day because no, I've never been to it. This is also the first attraction that was completed without Walt Disney. It is also the attraction that's been in development for the longest amount of time because it took 18 years to be completed from the time of conception to the time that it opened.
That's an entire childhood worth of time.
Yes.
Yeah, so the ride was announced in 1961, and the facade was completed 2 years later by 1963, but then the mansion itself wouldn't open until 1969. And that was mostly attributed to the delays were to like Disney's involvement in the 1964-1965 New York World's Fair,
Hmm.
but then also Walt passed away during that time as well.
Yeah.
And I think we'll get to it a little bit more, but there was a lot of different involvement from very creative, very impactful Imagineers. And I think that also probably contributed to the delay. They just all had so many different ideas of what they wanted this to be or what it could
Yes.
be.
That's what I was going to add to it is very different. Very different Imagineers.
Yes, yes. So, along with that, early on, there were stories proposed for the mansion, many, many different stories that were potentially going to be told through the mansion,
Hmm.
like the story of Captain Gore and his bride, which is actually why that there's a sailboat on the weather vane on the mansion. Or there was even idea proposed of a ghostly wedding party featuring Disney villains like Maleficent and Chernabog.
Interesting.
Yeah, it makes
I'm
me
glad
think.
they didn't do that.
No, no, yeah, I don't think it would have been serious enough for but all the good stories that we've had since then. But it does make me think of did you ever see, and I might have asked you this before, even on the podcast, but that like 1990s sing along video?
Of the Haunted Mansion?
Yeah, yeah, part of it is the Haunted Mansion.
I don't think so. I mean, maybe I did, but I don't remember.
Okay. That was my actual like introduction to what the Haunted Mansion was or what I thought it was going to be. But I mean, it's totally not. Like they have, I think, the most the most that it relates is that they have kind of like the spooky trees, but they're like a costume character of the spooky trees, kind of like dancing around. And I think they have like the big bad wolf and maybe the witch from Snow White. I don't know. It scared me. That's why I didn't want to go in the haunted mansion. But yeah, there were other stories proposed as well, and it kind of would have been interesting to see how they would have gone with the Captain Gore storyline since there was like a potential uh like the it took them a while to develop how they were going to get people through the mansion because like you were saying it was proposed to be like a walkthrough museum,
Hmm.
but then also I saw that there was potentially a boat ride.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think that really played into like the Captain Gore storyline of it all because it might have been like a sinking, dilapidated house, but
Is Captain Gore someone that they created, or is that a character, like a different character?
I think it's a character they created but based on Bluebeard, which is its own story, but the mansion in Disney World kind of shows more of that storyline because they have, I think, the tomb, not the tombs, but yeah, I guess the tomb that has all of like Captain Gore's wives like in it. But that's in the just in the queue for that.
Got it.
Yeah.
After the fair, many Imagineers, such as Mark Davis, ex Atencio, and Claude Coates, were brought onto the project, and Ken Anderson had left the project by this time. Yale Gracie was looked to create the magic of the Haunted Mansion due to his creativity and the experience he had as a magic stage actor. He partnered with Rolly Crump and they created some of the most iconic pieces in the Haunted Mansion and many additional figures that have been noted as important to the lore and history of the mansion's creation.
Have you seen, I'm sure you have, like seen his artwork?
The artwork I for Rolly Crump,
Yeah.
the artwork that he did for the mansion, yeah, I've seen,
Yeah.
but I haven't seen any of his artwork outside of that.
Okay. I'm sure you have because it's like featured in other Disney things.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so you probably have without knowing, which
Mhm.
I same before doing this research. But I just think that his artwork is so absolutely interesting.
It is.
And yeah, some of the characters that didn't make it into the mansion too, or at least that we don't see in the mansion. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, those just contribute to the 999 ghosts. We just don't meet them, but they're
Yes.
there somewhere looking around, like the wax candle man or the talking chair.
Yeah, he had a lot of really cool designs. And are you gonna talk about any I haven't gone through all of the notes, so I'm just wondering, is there anywhere where you mention when Walt called like Rolly Crump into his office?
Like for the Museum of the Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
Oh,
it just a little bit farther down, right
okay.
before we get like into like literally what the attraction is today.
Okay.
Mark Davis and Claude Coates were co-art directors for the Haunted Mansion and pretty notoriously had two very different versions for the tone of the experience. Mark Davis was known for the humor that he brought into rides, and Claude Coates was known to be much more serious. And it seemed like he wanted the tone to match the atmosphere. So when the ghost host says, like, oh, you feel like a chill, and that all that dialogue that you hear as you approach the like the endless hallway with the floating candelabra, that description reminds me of like what he wanted the mansion to be tonally all throughout. Whereas Mark Davis was specifically brought in to be the
Like comedic
like the
relief.
yeah, like the gag guy. Like he was gonna find all the funny things to trickle in there.
And you can really see that as you're going through the ride because the first half of the ride is pretty spooky and serious. And then the second half of the ride is where you really meet like the 99 happy haunts and the fun that they're having in the graveyard scene.
I like can so see how people are doing that split, but there are so many like tiny pieces that like you still have that humor right next to you, even in like the more spookier settings.
Sure. So, due to the that conflict between them in the direction of the mansion, Walt decided to have a meeting with all of those that were working as creatives on the project. No one fully agreed with Raleigh Crump's ideas to make the mansion scary, but Walt accepted Raleigh Crump's ideas and wanted to utilize them in a museum of the weird, which would either be its own thing or incorporated into a restaurant addition to the mansion, similar to the Blue Bayou and Pirates. And in the Behind the Attraction series, I it really made me laugh because you can see Rolly Crump talking about how Walt calls him into his office and he's like, "You SOB." And I'm like, "Oh, I can't really see Walt talking that way, but like, of course he did. He's just a person like you and me."
I'm like, oh
And
no, I see that through and through. I'm like, this man is throwing them words around.
um and Raleigh is thinking like, "Oh, what did I do? Like I must be in trouble." And Walt is like, "You kept me up all night long. I got no sleep thinking about your artwork. And I love it and I want to incorporate it into, the Haunted Mansion." And I thought that part was really funny. I liked that part a lot.
Mm. I'm like, I like that Raleigh is like full on rolling his eyes at people like they're them not wanting the haunted mansion to be scary. He's like, they said I'm too scary. I was like, oh dang, he said these people are wusses.
He was talking to you, Megan.
I know, straight to me, straight to child me. Adult me loves it. I think that having a restaurant attached would be so interesting. I just want to know like where they would have like situated that. You know what I mean?
Yes. Can I dine in the ballroom? Like, what if you got to like look at people like with the ghosts in there, like how you are, like how you do with the Blue Bayou as you're passing through, and like you could see, people enjoying their meal. Like, what if that was what went on in the ballroom?
Hmm.
That would be so cool.
That would be so that would be so interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Now I'm like my gears are turning. So unfortunately, we never got a museum of the weird though, right? Or this restaurant. Probably partially due to Walt's death because he was the one that he wanted that.
Yeah.
And but plans weren't in place, so it was really just left up to this group of Imagineers that had been working on the project to come to a solution because there was a lot of lack of leadership just post Walt's death.
Yeah.
But they did it. They were able to clearly come up with something really awesome with all of those many ideas.
Yeah, they were able to come together and come to an agreement on the vision of the Haunted Mansion. And I know that must have been really difficult for them, but they did a really great job and it turned out to be incredible. And I don't think that it's an attraction that will ever be replaced.
No, I mean, how are you going to beat it? There's
Yeah.
no way to justify it. So, to get into the pieces of the mansion itself, we're first welcomed in by the ghost host, played by Paul Frees. He voices many recognizable things, but among a few are the voice of the auctioneer in Pirates, Ludwig von Drake, and the Grinch.
So cool. His voice, oh, I love his voice so much.
I love how much he sets the tone
Yeah.
at what point, like
Yeah.
fully mixing that scary with and like menacing with the humor because he
Yeah.
kind of has like a little sprinkle of like arrogance in
Yeah.
there.
Uh-huh.
It's it's very funny. It's
Does
very
such
well
a good
done.
job. Yeah. So this was the second attraction to utilize the Omnimover ride system, the first being Adventures Through Inner Space. And this Omnimover ride system scraped the walkthrough idea and the boat ride idea, and they decided to go with this option as it could be utilized for increased capacity, but also simulates wandering through the mansion alone with the small ride vehicle. It kind of is like you're walking through the mansion. You're just in a doom buggy.
Yes. I love that this wasn't a ride system that even existed before the Haunted Mansion, even though there was a there was one other ride that used it, but it was fully formed mid conceptualization of the entire project. They were also able to make a creative use of an elevator as the stretching room as a way to transport guests to a lower level and then to walk underneath the railroad tracks. Because for those of you that don't know, the ride doesn't take place in the mansion itself. There's a big old show building that's like off of the main park area that
Yes,
none of
you
us
are
can see.
underground when you're in the Haunted Mansion.
for part of it.
Yeah.
In the stretching room, it's also kind of like our first display of how they were able to combine the funny with the scary.
Yes. And in the stretching room, you can find four different portraits, and I wanted to talk about them a little bit. We first have the Dynamite Gentleman. This character was given the name of Ambassador Edward Gracie. He is thought to be a wealthy diplomat in Burma who was the paternal uncle to the mansion's ghost host. George Gracie Jr. Edward is said to have died during a revolutionary attack in Rangoon, where the embassy he was in got blown up.
What? I didn't know that there were such extensive backstories for these portraits.
It's like a little, I think it's like fandom, but
Sure, but I mean, so are the hitchhiking ghosts.
right. And
Tell me
then
more, tell me more.
we have many people's favorites, the tightrope walker. So I've heard her have many different names. I've heard her called um, Sally Slater. I've heard her have a few different names. We're gonna attach our sources in the podcast notes, but going off of this source, the tightrope walker is given the name of Mistress Lillian Gracie and is identified as the ghost host's first wife. It's thought that Lillian was born into a wealthy and doting family, but ran away from home at the age of 15 to pursue a relationship with her true love, who was a circus performer. But before she could reunite with him, Lillian's lover died in a freak accident involving a lion, and Lillian joined the circus as a tightrope walker, as it made her feel closer to her first love. Despite still being consumed by grief, Lillian married the wealthy George Gracie Jr., only for him to frequently cheat on her with his clairvoyant Madame Leota, who killed Lillian out of jealousy by convincing the woman to do a tightrope act for the family and then summoning an alligator to kill her.
Summoning an alligator.
It's Madame Leota.
She Aquaman?
Yes.
All right, sure. Dude, I'm so like, I don't know if you could see me, but I'm like slowly leaning in. Like, I have never, this is giving me like, I did these backstories and stories that I've never even had a clue about. Okay, who's next?
Then we have the little old lady, the Black Widow. So the Black Widow was made into the ghost host's mother, Mary Gracie, who was manipulated into marrying his father, George Gracie Sr., who was a lackluster lover and absent husband that left his wife to effectively be a single parent. Eventually, Mary sent George Jr. away to Yale, and George Sr. returned to their home. Great, so he comes back after the kid is gone. That's nice.
Who said that you can come back?
Right?
Why would you come back?
George Sr. revealed to Mary that he had cheated on her with a woman named Mrs. Patterson, which Mary happily took as an opportunity to murder her husband with a hatchet and legally get away with it by claiming it was a crime of passion. Using
Hey.
her inheritance, Mary fled the country to never be heard from again, leaving George Jr. as the new master of the Gracie estate.
I have questions about that story, but I'm not going to bother you with them because this might be a whole nother thing we got to do because this is extremely involved. I didn't know that there was a Gracie like family tree we had to worry about over here. What in the world? Okay. Okay, one more.
Right?
I'm looking forward to it.
So then we have the quicksand men. So each of the three quicksand men in the story is revealed to be an illegitimate member of the Gracie family who
Oh,
was kept around as a servant by the ghost host, but who prior to that worked as a cast member at the same circus as Lillian. The man on top was the mansion's liveryman, Daniel Patterson, and was the illegitimate half brother of the ghost host.
wait, sorry. He's their delivery man?
It says livery man.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
Livery man? I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just so caught up on a family's delivery man. Their personal delivery man. Sorry. The second man?
Daniel Patterson, and was the illegitimate half brother of the ghost host, born to the host's late father and his mistress. The man in the middle was mansion handyman Asa Gilbert, who was the half brother of the ghost host's mother, the Black Widow, who had chased him away from death threats. The man at the bottom was mansion gardener Eddie Foster, the again illegitimate son of the ghost host's uncle, Ambassador Edward Gracie. All three men were in love with Mistress Gracie, and after her death, they all became melancholy. George Jr.'s illegitimate daughter with Madame Leota, Little Leota, attempted to seduce the men, but after they rebuked her actions, she tricked them into getting trapped in the mansion's quicksand pit where they all died.
I feel so bad for them. Why would you just call a whole group of people just those are the illegitimates? Excuse me. They did not choose that for themselves. Why are we hating on them? What in the world? Okay, I am fully intrigued. My goodness, I'm all right. I mean, I want to make like one of those, those YouTube videos where maybe you don't watch them, but people have like one of those like detective boards with like all the strings when most of the time they're just talking about some TV show like Vampire Diaries or
Uh-huh.
Degrassi,
So
but
random.
now I want to do it for the Gracie family. I don't know. Also, so who's the ghost host?
So the ghost host is Edward Gracie, I believe. Or it's George Gracie, his son.
Okay. Was somebody a junior?
Yes, but you're gonna start confusing me. I need to like have a family tree to look at to answer your questions.
Okay. Okay. Maybe stay tuned. Maybe I'll make a Gracie family tree.
Yes.
Maybe somebody's already done it and I can just post it, but I'm intrigued. I didn't know this family was, I guess, as involved. I don't know. There's a lot of stories throughout the mansion, so it's hard
Right.
to kind of, it's just really the ride is a vibe. What story you decide to pay attention to is up to you. It's like a choose your own adventure. Holy cow, I feel like I need to catch my breath. Your family is worse than mine.
Right?
So, speaking of all these different figures in the mansion, we don't get to see any physical ghosts until after we pass Madame Leota. There are several haunting sights as we enter the mansion, like we see a zombie in a casket, a floating candelabra in the hallway, doors that seem to move on their own. But Madame Leota is the one that conjures the spirits to materialize. Madame Leota is played by Leota Toombs, who was a production designer, Imagineer, whose daughter then went on to portray Madame Leota once they created Haunted Mansion Holiday. A little passing of the torch. But Madame Leota is voiced by Eleanor Audley, who also voices Lady Tremaine in Cinderella and Maleficent.
So Leota Toombs, is she just the face?
She's just the face.
Okay. And then the voice is Eleanor Audley. And then where is her daughter in Haunted Mansion Holiday?
She's Madame Leota.
Oh, they just look the same.
Yeah, or
Okay.
close enough, you know.
Yeah, okay, cool. I didn't know that. I knew her daughter was like an Imagineer and worked for Disney, but I
Mhm.
didn't know she was in Haunted Mansion Holiday.
Yeah, I thought that was so stinking sweet, especially because in Behind the Attraction, she's a talking head in that, and ha ha ha, talking head. I didn't didn't mean to make that a pun, but she mentions like riding the Haunted Mansion with her kids and being like, "Wave to grandma."
Yes, I loved that part.
Dude, so cute. Well, now they can wave to her during the holiday season. Precious.
I've also seen her daughter in like I've seen her do like little snippets in quite a few different documentaries
Mm,
about
okay.
Disney, and I know that she has stated before that sometimes like her favorite part of the day is right when or right before the park is opened and it's really really quiet and she can walk by the haunted mansion and like hear her
That
mom's
is
voice. Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
Well, you're saying like she hears her mom's voice, like she feels like she's with her mom.
I when she said it she made it sound like her mom was the voice, but I guess she's not.
Okay, but that is so sweet.
Maybe she was like at one point, maybe it was her voice.
I can always double check. Madame Leota used to be a crystal ball sitting on the table, but in 2006, she was given a little change, and now she is a floating crystal ball above the table in the center of the room.
It's really cool.
I don't remember her sitting on the table. I actually don't think I might have not ridden the Haunted Mansion until after 2006.
I don't think that I had written it before then either. If I did, I don't have any memory of it.
Yeah, if I did, I was
We were
just
small.
so young
Yeah.
and probably scared, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Moving into the ballroom or the banquet hall, this is where you will see Pepper's ghost effect being used to give life to the ghostly visions in the ballroom scene. And it's not uncommon for those not aware of this effect to assume that these ghosts are some sort of hologram. However, Pepper's ghost is a really old technique that's been used to wow audiences since the 1800s, which is really cool. I have heard of Pepper's ghost effect many times and never really understood what was happening. I just knew that that was
Like
the
the
way
name
that
of the
we're.
effect.
What was that?
Like the name of the effect.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yes, but I didn't really know how they made it work. And then when you watch behind the attraction and they show you like the figures that are down below, like the actual figures, and it's like their reflection. And it's really cool
Yep.
how they're able to
Like
do it. I'm
light and
curious,
mirrors.
like how. Well, I guess it's the same. Like I was like, how did they get the guy on the chandelier? But it's all like the same.
But like how creative for us to be, moving along like a upper balcony area that's overlooking the ballroom for them to be able to put the animatronics and all the other material needed to make those ghosts just underneath the where the ride track, the vehicle track is,
Right,
and then also have space above that to project the other ones out too, or not
right.
project them, but create that
Create that
effect.
reflection. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Like it's so dynamic because you have them above you, below you. It almost looks like you have them right in front of you too, with the organist that's right there, and the like the little ghosties that are coming out of the organ, but those are just a little bit like next to you instead. It's very interesting. It's very cool how they were able to use it throughout the entire room.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the attic and the different brides.
Yeah. So when you go through the attic now, I I can't say if it's always been this way. I couldn't find any ride footage from the early days, but it does seem like it's been fairly consistent throughout the time of since the Haunted Mansion was created. But as you enter, you hear like a wedding march playing, and then you see the portraits of what is now Constance and her former husbands. And as you pass by, you see the portraits change. So each of the men lose their head.
Mm-hmm.
The Constance that we know today is the Black Widow bride. So it's interesting to me that they also have the Black Widow in the stretching room portraits. This Constance was introduced in 2006 and was present in the mansion on its last closure. But since we've only had Haunted Mansion Holiday since then, there is, I know, some speculation that we'll be getting a new bride, but we'll see.
She's not my favorite.
No, no. I've heard people argue that some of the past iterations are better
Mm-hmm.
because she does look pretty weird. She's like a projected image pretty much on just a mannequin figure
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
with, wearing a dress, and so that has those details. In an axe appears in her hand and she says some menacing puns pretty much. I
Yeah.
think she's real goofy, to be honest. I mean, I welcome the change if that's what's happening, but who knows? The first bride that we got, the first two, were both known as the Beating Heart Brides. The first one was very corpse like, with a beating heart holding a candle and bouquet. And she was actually said to be the love interest of the Hatbox Ghost. And it was kind of insinuated that she killed him.
Mm.
But with the removal of the Hatbox Ghost, there was less focus of the story like on the bride itself.
Right.
But then we got the second iteration, and she's much less corpse-like. Like she definitely looks like a more of like a crazed human, and she has like glowing yellow eyes. And she appeared in 1990. And then we got our Constance today in 2006, and we shall see what we get from there on. Seems like the focus of the story still is mostly about Constance, but again, like a little choose your own adventure.
Yeah. So I really like the story of the Hatbox Ghost, the way that they explained it in the Behind the Attraction episode. They so if you haven't seen it, the Hatbox Ghost is this man that in his hand is holding a hat box, and for a moment his like head disappears and you can see it appear in the hat box, and that's what it was intended to look like. However, when they were constructing the haunted mansion, there was different lighting that they were using as they were building this figure, and once they put it in the haunted mansion, it didn't last very long because you could still see the face on the figure itself, even like when the head is supposed to be going into the hat box. You could see it both places. So instead of leaving it like that, they just took it out, which I appreciate. However, it took too long for them to bring the Hatbox Ghost back, in my opinion, but he was added to the Disneyland mansion in 2015. We're going to talk a little bit about Daniel Joseph, who is the modern day Imagineer that is credited with the creation of the Hatbox Ghost that we have today. It seems like it was a passion project of his because it was something he started working on in just his like personal like spare time, and he was definitely very inspired by Yale Gracie's creative work.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the reason why it took so long, is because it took somebody doing it on their own time, somebody that just felt like this character needed to come back to its home.
Yeah.
Moving on to the graveyard. This is the most, I would say, exciting scene, definitely the grand finale of the mansion. You see many, many happy haunts there as you go through. We have the Phantom Five, which are the musicians. The king and the queen are on the teeter totter, and then the Duchess is right near them on the swing, sipping some tea. We have those singing busts that we mentioned in our myth episode. So from left to right, they're named Rollo Rumpkin, Uncle Theodore, Cousin Algernon, Ned Nub, and Phineas Peapock. And the one that, people say looks like Walt Disney is Uncle Theodore.
Gotcha. Okay.
hmm hmm And each of these people are portrayed by a different singer that they have their own likeness portrayed on there, but they have their character names. We have the Tea Party ghosts, the bicycle ghosts, and then the mummy, which is my personal favorite, who's speaking with the oracle. And then we have the male and female opera singers. And I'm pretty sure during one of our episodes I called them Vikings. I don't know why. I was like, oh yeah, that's like an opera thing, the Viking helmet. I don't know. It's super. They're singing. They're quite literally singing opera, and it did not occur to me to call them that. Instead, they were just Vikings. And then we have a decapitated knight, an executioner. There's like a ghoulie in the tomb. I I don't know what they actually are or what else to call them. That's just pretty much what I've called them. I love them too. There's the bricklayer who has cemented themselves into a tomb. And then all throughout, you can hear hellhounds and you can see some around too. And then they have the pop up ghosts. So a few little jump scares as you go through the graveyard.
Then we have, of course, the three hitchhiking ghosts. We have Ezra Bean, who is the skeleton, Professor Phineas Plump, who is the traveler, and Gus, the prisoner. These ghosts were not given official names by Disney, but instead people in the community took it upon themselves to give them each their now canonical names.
And one of them's going to follow you home. That's somewhere else where the Disneyland Haunted Mansion differs from Disney World is that in the mirrors, we see a Pepper's ghost effect, whereas in Disney World they have the projections.
How they're able to make the Pepper's ghost effect continue to move with you as you're going along is, I don't understand how they're able to do that. That's really cool.
Yeah, something with timing and moving the figures themselves. I'm not sure.
I
Maybe there's
also
something that's triggered. I
just
don't know.
wanted to mention that Megan loves the mummy, but I want to join in on the tea party.
Oh, that's fun. Something I definitely forgot. I thought I put it in my notes, but I guess I didn't. Something that you'll notice as you go throughout the mansion is a crow.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So at one point it was proposed that that would be like the physical embodiment of the ghost host.
Yes.
I think you see him four times. I can only
Yes.
think of
Four
three.
times. Yeah, there's four.
So when you pass the zombie,
Well, and in the um entrance, like after you leave the stretching room, there's a crow before you get on the doom buggies.
before,
Yes.
huh? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure there's a crow in that hallway somewhere.
I don't know. I can't picture it. I could only think of three. I trust you.
I could be wrong.
I was thinking next to the zombie with Madame Leota as you're going backwards into the graveyard, and then maybe right after you get on the doom buggy and you're going up.
When you're talking about the zombie, are you talking about the guy that's, or the being that's in the,
It's like, let me out, let me
yeah,
out. Yeah.
okay.
To
There's
me.
also a lot of hidden stuff that you can find throughout the Haunted Mansion, starting with the Donald chair, which is a remnant of the Museum of the Weird. And then one of my favorites is the hidden Mickey on the table in the banquet scene. So it's like three little plates that are a hidden Mickey. As well, in the banquet scene, you can find a little spider that is covering a crack that was caused by someone in the 70s brought a gun into the park and shot at the like glass wall that's separating you from the banquet scene, and it created a crack that can't be replaced without removing the entire roof. So instead, there is just a cute little spider covering where that hole is. And I love pointing it out to people that haven't heard of that before. And it's really easy to miss.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a $5 fix for $1 million problem.
Right.
They were able to make it work with the story with the Donald chair because that's right to the just like across from the suit of armor near the endless hallway, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that is a remnant of the Museum of the Weird, like you said, but was originally supposed to be like a talking chair.
Oh.
Yeah. So I could definitely see like where people are seeing the Donald, but it is just supposed to look like a face. And there are so many faces that you can spot throughout the mansion. Like it's actually kind of jarring once you start realizing that pretty much everything is a face. Like everything is looking at you the whole time. Like door handles, the like the arches above doors, the wallpaper, the a clock.
Clock
I think
that's
that's a big
always striking 13.
one. The demon clock, which I think was supposed to be a coffin clock at one point. I really like that. And it wasn't something that I knew of or realized until I read the Haunting of Hill House and saw the movie The Haunted. But I really appreciate going through like the hallway of doors now because that's what I think of. And I really love the Haunting of Hill House book.
Okay.
And it's just like so true to the descriptors in that book.
Cool.
Lots to be found in the ballroom scene because also the organ that's being played is the same one played by Captain Nemo in the 1957 film 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So a real movie prop,
I love that.
right? Very fun.
Have you ever seen that movie?
No,
Me either.
I haven't seen, I think they remade it in the 90s. I haven't seen that either.
Yeah, me either. What is your favorite scene in the Haunted Mansion?
That's hard. Probably Madame Leota.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I kind of want to be her.
Yeah. She's
Like
really, really cool.
she's so cool. And I know some people don't that have seen, the crystal ball sitting on the table. They don't really care for the levitating effect of her crystal ball now. Because I guess some people think that she's just a floating head and not a crystal ball,
Oh.
which is very interesting. But I guess I could see that. But I could listen to her recite that like incantation that she does. I could just listen to that, honestly. Something with like the lighting is very visually appealing to me also. I like that the crow's there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's very interesting. And I almost actually I think it's the few scenes that I like more during Haunted Mansion Holiday
Mm-hmm.
because I love the tarot cards
Yeah,
spinning.
that's
Oh my
really
gosh.
cool.
Like the instruments are fine. I like to see them. I like how they're all playing together because she's asking for them to play the instruments, and then it's like very appealing to me to be able to be like, oh, there's that one. It's like actually being played, but I do like the tarot cards better.
I think my favorite scene is actually the stretching room
Oh, okay.
because that really perplexed me as a kid.
Hmm.
And I I really love, I know a lot, some people don't like this, But I really love when there's a bunch of people in the Haunted Mansion and we're all like reciting it word for word. I think that's really fun and just like a nice little moment of like bonding with everyone around you. Like we all know this, we all love it. And I think it's also one of the scariest parts of the ride,
Mhm.
like seeing that person hanging up there. It's quite terrifying. There's just a hanging man.
Okay, and it's super valid that you would enjoy that because that would be a very communal moment. It's like when people are singing like A Pirate's Life for Me on Pirates. Like that's very fun for me. But because that moment is scary, and I agree, like the scariest moment in the mansion, I don't like that other people are. I'm like, let him tell me about it. I want to be scared. Let him scare me. But if you enjoy it, and if it's consensual among everyone, then hey, go for it. I'm curious now that you say that, because I really haven't experienced that, I guess, but it makes me think of what was it? The 50th anniversary was not too long ago, or in 2019, I think. That would be
Yeah.
50 years. That's math.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's when they were doing the after hours events for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious if people were grouping together in that kind of communal moment and they were
Oh,
enjoying that,
probably. Yeah.
you know? Yeah. It's a whole bunch of Haunted Mansion nerds like us.
Yes, exactly.
Something I really enjoyed about learning the history of the mansion is the connection between different names and the Imagineers that created the mansion,
Hmm.
because there's so much overlap, and I think that probably became pretty apparent as we were going through each of
Yeah.
these actors. But I that was just I love that. That just made me feel so excited and very validated in loving this attraction, because it's like, oh, people that made this put a lot of heart and soul into it
Hmm.
and wanted it to be something that stood the test of time, that we could all continue to enjoy and
Hmm.
contribute to. Clearly, people are contributing to the lore themselves, which is just making it an even more long-standing communal story. It feels like it's almost like in, like American mythos at this point, because it has like such an impact on people that visit it and
Yeah,
experience it. I love that.
for sure. So I think that's all we have for you guys.
Hopefully you learned some new facts in history about one of the best attractions ever.
Yep.
Thank you so much for listening. We post new content every Saturday, so please follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you listen so you never miss an episode.
And don't forget to review and rate us 5 stars, share it with your friends, and subscribe to at Magical Happy Hour podcast on Instagram. Megan, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Megan Creedon, and there's a link to my TikTok on there if you want to follow me as well. Shy, what about you?
You can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at Disney Obsessed Nurse. And if you're interested in having a professional travel agent that specializes in Disney and Universal Studios, especially with that new discounted kids ticket, you can find the link to my website in our podcast notes, or you can DM me or email me at Cheyenne, SHYANNE, at vincentvacations.com. Be sure to join us next week because we are going to be covering my trip to Disneyland and going over Oogie Boogie Bash.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I can't wait to hear how your trip goes and all about the party.
I'm so excited, and we'll see you guys next week.
Cheers.
Cheers!